Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for attending another one of our educational webinars. These are presented every week by BidYourEnergy.com. My name is Thomas Johnson, and I'll be your host. So we are all ready to go. The title of today's webinar is The State of Solar Energy in New Jersey. And in many ways, New Jersey is ahead of the rest of the country in terms of solar energy. We're going to talk about a lot of those topics and more, and we'll get started. I don't really want to focus on these first two slides that much, but I just wanted to put a couple of the pros and cons of solar energy here. And we can look at the pros first. Lots of good ones. Obviously, they give off no pollution. They're completely silent. There's also a huge cost benefit, and later on I'll have some return on investment numbers for you guys. With solar, you become less dependent on an increasingly unreliable grid, and most of the time you can install them on an otherwise empty rooftop. And also we have some cons here. Obviously there's a huge startup cost. They work during the daylight hours only. Bad weather will make these inefficient. They're harder to work in populated areas and also polluted areas as well. And let's go away from that and let's talk about solar energy specifically in New Jersey and see if we can find out why it's the most solar-friendly state right now. These numbers right here are total load in megawatts, and they are grid-connected solar installations. So just take California out of the equation here, and New Jersey is number one with a 9% market share. The next closest competition would be Colorado with half of that. And so why out of all the states is New Jersey so high on this list? And the biggest reason everyone will agree to is return on investment numbers. The incentives, the rebates, the solar credits, they all make it very attractive. On the next slide here, I found a graph that compares an investment in solar of $25,500 versus taking the same investment and playing the stock market with it. And after 15 years, you got about $100,000 on solar and only 43 playing the stock market. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of where these investments are coming through. And then I also have a breakdown here, and this is by state, showing how long it takes to pay off the initial investment. And Jersey does beat out California in this one. An average job will take about 4 years to pay off. And the main reason why it takes 4 years and not 10, like in Texas or New Mexico, is definitely the state incentives and options that are out there. And so let's start talking about them. First, I will mention the federal tax credit. The U.S. government provides savings if you're eligible. Typical solar panels and even solar hot water heating will make you eligible for a 30% credit off the cost of your project. That would be 30% off the net out-of-pocket costs, or the total price of the project minus any subsidized energy financing, any grants or loans or bonds that are associated with that. You might be able to take the gross cost of the project, but you'd have to get a tax professional to consult with you about that. And in case you're not aware, that the credit is different than a deduction, where a deduction would be $5,000 if you had a business that made, let's say, $100,000 in income. They would only pay taxes on $55,000. A tax credit of $5,000 in the same situation means that the final amount owed in taxes is reduced dollar for dollar by $5,000, so it's much more viable than your typical deduction. There are deductions available as well. You, as a commercial entity, you're eligible for a 5-year accelerated depreciation schedule. This would be a large deduction based on the total cost of your project. So that's another valuable tax deduction. So going away from taxes, let's talk about solar renewable energy credits, SRECs. These are the biggest incentives in terms of value with the solar project. These are credits or certificates, and they are a tradable environmental commodity in the U.S. They actually represent that 1,000 kilowatt hours of energy were generated at your facility via a renewable source, and they can be bought, sold, and traded on the open market. And by law, utilities are required to purchase a certain amount of these each year. And you guessed it, New Jersey is definitely one of the leaders in that category as well. So with a solar credit, you're basically selling excess power back to the grid, and these payments can get pretty high depending on how, when, and where you're using the energy. When your meter starts spinning backwards, you're selling it back to the grid. And again, I'll focus on New Jersey here. The pricing on the credit is based on the capacity prices for power, and in New Jersey, that capacity cost will be doubling next year, so it's even more of an incentive to start earning some of these credits. And finally, let's talk about utility bill savings. It's obviously the most compelling reason to convert to renewable energy, the money that you can expect to save in the long run on power. Every kilowatt hour you produce, that's one less you have to take from the grid. Now, the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, there's a ruling that came out recently you might not be aware of. You're not allowed to be 100% off grid with your solar. You can go up to 99%. And that's not really a big deal because most of the jobs that we see our customers deal with would be at 50% off the grid. That would be 50% of your total demand during peak hours. The daylight hours would be renewable, and it still allows you to rack up the credits when that meter is spinning backwards. And of course, you do need a special meter to record that info. And so that's just the few of the incentives. Obviously, there's tons more that I could start. I could be here all day. But I will leave you with some resources before we're finished up that you can go in and find really helpful. There is another option besides going out and installing on your own, and that's called a power purchase agreement, and we do work with these from time to time. We've actually been negotiating more and more of these agreements each year. Hudson Energy is one of the approved suppliers that are in our auction platform, and they specialize in these power purchase agreements. And there are other suppliers that are in our platform that work with them as well. So these agreements, they offer you the benefits of solar without the costs and risks that are usually associated with these new installations. The supplier will install the panels on your property at no cost, and they also maintain ownership, and they're responsible for all the maintenance and monitoring for a period of usually 15 or 20 years. And they'll actually lease the space from your building. So if they're going on your roof, they'll lease the roof for 15 years. So what you do is you get cheap power from the panels during the time of the agreement, much cheaper than you'd be paying otherwise. And a good energy consultant will help you negotiate a price with this agreement, a highly competitive contracted price per kilowatt hour. And after the agreement is up, after that 15 years, you can actually choose to assume the ownership of that system. So you're getting the green benefits here, and you're avoiding the upfront costs. You're still going to cut your bill by 50% or more for 20 years. And I did promise you some resources. Here are some ones that I find helpful. The first one, DSIRE, that stands for Database for State Incentives for Renewables and Efficiency. They have every state on there, but it's completely detailed. There's amazing instructions on where and how to get started on each state grant or fund. The applications are even right there on the site. Their website would be dsireusa.org. And second on there, a PV calculator, photovoltaic calculator. The one I use is PV Watts. That one's extremely helpful. You want to put your location on there via zip code, and they'll calculate where you are on the earth and how much solar energy you could generate and what the cost of that energy would be. And you can just Google PV Watts and find that one pretty easy, or any other photovoltaic calculator. The third one on there, the Edison Innovation Fund, that also the Clean Energy Manufacturing Fund. It's ran out of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. They always have grants up on there all the time. They're funded by SBC charges, which stands for Societal Benefit Charges. Those are on your electric bill, the little $1, $2 line items that you see pop up on there from time to time. So you're actually paying for it right now. You might as well take advantage of them if you can. The website to go on there and check would be the New Jersey Economic Development Authority's site. That's njeda.com. That's njeda.com. NJCleanEnergy.com. And finally, the New Jersey Office of Clean Energy, or OCE, they run the New Jersey Clean Energy Program. Their website is njcleanenergy, all one word, .com. That's njcleanenergy.com. And I would look at a couple programs to start. Smart Start Buildings, that's for new installations, and Direct Install is a good one. That is for medium-sized businesses. There's a limit to the amount of energy that you can use. You're not allowed to exceed 150 kilowatts of demand in any 1 month period. But the program will pay for a walkthrough of your facility. They'll actually send someone from the program there to look around and find any upgrades that you could do that would actually get paid for by their office. So it's not just a sales guy coming to ruffle your feathers. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is where Bid Your Energy would fit in, besides power purchase agreements, which we can negotiate. So installing panels, definitely in the long run, it's a great money saver. Of course, it's going to take a lot of time and a substantial investment. And it's important to realize that you can't rely on solar power 100% of the time. It's not even allowed in New Jersey. You can go up to 99% right now. So you're still going to have to take something from the grid. So your number one concern when it comes to electricity should be who your supplier is and what rate you're paying per kilowatt hour. And I can't tell you how many times I hear someone say, well, we're kind of waiting on looking at third-party suppliers because we're looking at upgrading the solar right now. And that's definitely not an excuse. There are tons of options that we can work with you on. If you haven't migrated to a third party yet, I would strongly suggest watching the webinar that we have up there. We did for the New Jersey Basic Generation Auctions. If you haven't migrated, you're considered a Basic Generation Service customer or BGS customer. And we talked about how the price gets determined for those, and there's an auction every year. It's hard to put that webinar into a nutshell, but I can try. If you haven't moved over, you're considered using what they call the default provider, or even the provider of last resort, which refers to businesses who don't have the credit to get with a supplier. So they're kind of putting it out there and saying that it's a bad idea anyway. Third-party providers bid on the chance to provide supply to these pools that they call tranches, and every year that they establish a rate. And they use a 3-year pricing model. So this year's auctions, the price actually has to get blended with the previous 2 years. So what can happen with the pricing model, and actually is happening right now, is that pricing for electricity is way down right now because the market is down. And the rate for Basic Generation customers is inflated because you have 2010 and 2011 prices blended into their price. And here's what Bid Your Energy customers are paying versus Basic Generation customers. You can see it's 12 to 20% less. And so what we can do for you, we have this PowerPit platform. We work with reputable suppliers. Some of the providers in our platform actually won the right to provide supply to BGS customers. So whether you like it or not, you're actually getting power from a third party right now. We also have dedicated analysts on our staff. Each customer gets assigned their very own, and their job is to take your electric bill and pick it apart into 30 different components. They look for anything in how you use energy that can be used to negotiate a better rate. And if you're worried about the amount of time and legwork it's going to take to find a supplier, well, we can do all that for you. We're the experts. We've been around since the start of deregulation, literally 11 years here in New York. So finally, the adaptable terms, which is great for anyone looking at a solar or renewable energy project. We don't have to lock you into 1 or 2, 3-year terms. We can do 3 months and 6 months. And we also look at full swing arrangements for people that are looking in solar. Full swing means that you're not tied down to a certain amount of energy to use during a contract. So if you do eventually put solar panels in halfway through the contract and your usage will go up, you're not going to be penalized for it or owe anything. And once you do have solar panels installed, we can look at special block and index rates, which those rates are very conducive to businesses that have solar energy. So Bidger Energy, we're not your typical broker. We have a full suite of energy-related products. The best part, all of the programs that we have, we don't take any out-of-pocket costs from you. Here's a list of some of the things we do besides our procurement auctions. We'll do consultation, risk management, planning, smart metering, demand response, bill auditing, lighting upgrades, carbon tracking, building side management, demand side management, and building benchmarking. Also, just want to show you guys the market. It hasn't been this low in over 10 years. The price of electricity is strongly correlated with the price of natural gas. Today, the price went down to $2.20. The last time it came down that low was in March, and it shot up 35% right away, and it's slowly gone back down to $2.20, which is, everyone agrees that $2.20 is the bottom for natural gas. It gets to a point where you can't be profitable to pull it out of the ground. So it's not going to get any lower than where it is today is basically what we're saying. And that's all I have today. You can visit our website, bidgerenergy.com, to get started. There's a Get Started link. Or you can give me a call at 877-669-8243. My extension here is 336. I'm sorry we don't open these up for questions, but I'll be at my desk for the rest of the day. So if you do have anything that's on your mind, you can feel free to call me anytime. And I appreciate all you guys coming in and taking time out of your day. I hope you have a great afternoon, and thanks again for all your time.